Hi, my name's Kendrick, and this is episode 2 of Spro and Go. So first with the coffee, I am using the same coffee that I did in my first video. What I want to do, and kind of talked about this at the tail end of the first episode, was I will be releasing 2 videos a week. On the coffee side, we'll be brewing that one coffee on espresso, and we're going to use that same coffee and brew it using a different brew method, whether it's pour over, using an AeroPress, or doing like cold brew or French press, and then dialoguing from there. So again, as a refresher and a reminder, this coffee was a Mexico Chiapas, provided by Civil Coffee in Los Angeles, California, and it was good, but I kind of sucked when I made my pour over. I used the V60, and typically whenever I'm making a pour over for myself, I will use the Hario V60 because it does make about like 12 ounces of coffee, which is like perfect for any normal consumer of coffee. And if you need more, I would probably recommend like doing a Chemex, because you could do larger batches with like an 8-cup Chemex. But that's a different video. So why was it just okay? Well, let's talk about my stats first. So I used 22 grams of coffee. My output was 360 grams, meaning like the final brew weighed 360 grams. And the brew took me 1 minute and 58 seconds. And typically for like a V60, it's like a little bit fast. And what I mean by that is that this isn't like set in stone, but a good number to like look out for is like anywhere between like 2.5 minutes to even like around 3 minutes. So it ran a little bit fast, and a lot of it was because my grind for my coffee was a little bit too coarse. For grinders, I use a Baratza Encore whenever I do a pour over, and it's a great grinder. It's just I messed up. I thought like I had it set to like a good place, and then it ran just a little bit fast, and I was just too focused on the actual like recording of me doing a pour over, as opposed to really focusing on like making sure that my grind was good and that my technique was like good as well. Now in this video, I'm not going to really do a thorough walkthrough on how I do a V60. There's so many different recipes, but there is one that I like to use that produces really great coffee in the end, and it's also very user-friendly, and there's like some good science and technique behind it, and like why it works so well. But with this one, it was kind of just my basic setup and like what I do when I make a pour over. When it comes to the notes of the coffee, I mean, even though it wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be, it was still fantastic. So right off the bat, a lot of those like apple notes still came through, and it was like a really sweet cup of coffee, had a lot of like nice citrus zest notes, and it had pretty like pleasant like nutty finish, just that it was like a little bit like watered down. And the reason why I believe it is the grind settings, because it was a little bit watered out, and that can lead to the conclusion of the coffee just being a little bit under extracted. So one way that I like to look at it is like if you had like like a bucket of gravel, and or you just had gravel like suspended in the air, if you had like the ability to do that, if you were some sort of like wizard, and then you poured a bucket of water over that gravel, the water would just like run through all of the gravel and the rocks and then just like hit the floor. Now, if you're able to like pulverize that gravel into sand and something super fine, and you poured that water over that, it would kind of hold that water and like suspend it, and also like it would just be saturating all the sand. And essentially like that's what's happening with coffee. If your grind is too coarse, the water just runs through really quickly, which is kind of what happened to me, and you get a more diluted cup of coffee because you're not able to extract enough of that coffee. There isn't enough water and coffee contact happening in that amount of time because your grind is too coarse. Now, if it's too fine, it could clog up your filter, and you would just have like stagnant water just immersed in like, or the coffee would be immersed in the water and it would just stay stagnant, and you would just get a really slow drip, and that could really encourage a lot of over extraction. So with those notes, tends to be a little bit like bitter, really harsh, and kind of just taste like coffee, like what you would get at like a diner who just serves like crappy coffee. And that's not what we're really looking for. We're looking for something really tasty and something that we can like celebrate and say like, hey, I made this, and like I'm getting better at it, right? So probably next time I will tighten it up a little bit, just to make sure that I'm getting a more even extraction. Again, with this video, I'm not going to go super deep into like the whole pour over process. That will be saved for another one where I'll do more of a POV video and show you the whole walkthrough of it. But the coffee did give me enough caffeine to get me going for my run. So let's get to the run. I did run on my day off, and I broke up my workout into 2 different runs. First one, I was able to run with my puppy Tony, and then the second one I ran solo. So for my first run, we did 4.66 miles, 4 minutes 26 seconds at 8:40 pace with 452 feet of elevation gain. And in a lot of like the footage that you'll see, you're gonna see like there's a lot of hills like in the area that I run around my house. So it's never fun, and it's always tough that first mile, because that first mile, like there's a hill right off the bat. And the one thing that I always have to be conscious about is when I run with my puppy, like I never really try to push the pace like super hard, because what tends to happen is like he always gets really excited whenever we run. All the other dogs in the neighborhood are waking up. They're all just barking at him, and he gets like super stoked, like he's like they're cheering him on. And what ends up happening is near the end of our run, whenever we have to loop back home, he gasses out, and it just becomes like this trudge back home. So I try to like pull us back a little bit, just so that we both have enough in the gas tank to finish our run. For the second run, did it later in the afternoon. I ran 3.14 miles. Total time was 25 minutes 8 seconds at a 7:59 mile pace with 333 feet of elevation gain. And this run, I felt really good in the beginning, and it wasn't until the end where I kind of like started feeling like a little bit tired. Legs were kind of feeling like they were just filled with rocks. Like it was just tough. And you know, I mean, first of all, like I'm not even a trained runner. I don't give running advice. I'm the last person that probably should, but I just do it. You know, in high school, I played basketball, and for our cardio, if you've ever played high school basketball, Most of the time, cardio is just like running lines or you scrimmage, and that's it. There's never like a huge focus on like doing distance running. And so in high school, like I wasn't a trained runner. In college, I did the opposite of running. I just ate a lot of like crappy pizza, even though it was crappy pizza, it was still really good pizza in my mind because pizza is my favorite food. So a lot of Little Caesars, and so there was like the opposite of running was happening. Um, and it wasn't until like pretty recently that I got more into running. And it leads me to kind of like the point and the final thoughts of this video is just like the why. You know, why run? And you know, I think a lot of people, or I see a lot of like other content creators creating like videos where they ask their whys and they provide their whys. And I think it's a really good question and it's really good content because people want to make those connections with other people. If they can see someone, they're like, oh, like I can relate to them. And if the whys are also really similar, then it could provide like encouragement. It can provide like inspiration. It could provide that fuel to like to really push one another to achieve the goals and the lifestyle that we want. So what's my why? And the main reason why I run is mainly for the discipline of it. You know, because I never was a good runner and I still am not a good runner. I'm not a fast runner, but it does instill a lot of discipline because those days that I don't want to run, which is almost every day because I still don't like running. But it provides me with that mental discipline of, okay, if I can do this task, then other things in my life that where I might hit like a roadblock like don't seem as hard anymore. So that's one reason. And you know, I think I'm gonna touch on this subject like more and more like in the future. But another thing is, you know, I decided to run because like when I really boil it down, like everything that I was doing before when it came to like my health and fitness, it was just never good enough. And that's it. So thanks for watching. Till next time.